the chase. So I guess I would say, first of all, that I identify as a flexible asexual. Yeah, hold on. Let me put a little thing on my door so I'm not loud in the house. Okay. So, okay, being a flexible asexual allows me to decide how I relate to people at the end of the day. And I'm not actually a very possessive person. Hashtag Venus and Aquarius, hashtag Pisces. I've felt my way through a lot of things, and thereby I'm involved in whatever kind of relationship shows up for me, if I desire, right? Because I've also spent more of my life single than I have in relationships. Like, I've spent half of my 20s abstinent, like 6 years of my 20s. So I'm not invested in what the socio-romantic ideas are around sex. And that was evident in me from a very early age. I chose to lose my virginity, AKA I was just like, I want to see what the sex thing is, what the deal is all about. And the partner I had at the time, they were like, oh, really? You know guys, like, oh my God, really? And then when we were done, I was like, that's what everyone was talking about? Like, granted, it was the first time, so I had no context for what I actually enjoyed or that what I was supposed to do, or like what I could do, right? But I did not have some sort of traumatizing initiation into my sexual life, which, cannot be said of everyone. So this lack of trauma and this openness, and also this curiosity at an early age, I feel like helped pave the way. I'm a very mutable person. Wait, mutable? Mutable, yeah, mutable. As long as my needs are being met, I'm not particular about my shit. So, like, I'm a good roommate, for example, because, like, you can stress out all the fuck you want, but that's why I have a room. Like, I'm the youngest of 3 children. I understand how to go into my corner and do what I want, So, I'm not gonna allow anybody's negativity to really fuck me. And by negativity, I just mean, like, their unaddressed things, the things they won't say, which is something you learn a lot in relationship to roommates, in relationship to siblings. So, sorry, what was the original question? Oh, right, yeah. Right, I would say the first, like, consciously aware experience was my freshman year in college. I found myself wanting to transfer the first semester, and I was in this process over the winter break, but then in the second semester, I met a group of people who I still talk to today, and I met them through this guy that I was dating at the time, and appropriately named Chase. You can rename him in the retelling if you want. And he was like an evasive, non-committal person, but he was also sincere about his feelings. Like, he just wasn't honest about, like, who he had them for and how he organized them. And this I think is a very patriarchal thing, because patriarchy allows men to be very dishonest, and also probably a very white thing, because I went to school in upstate New York, which was very white, but anyway. So he would protect himself and protect for an outcome that he assumed would be negative by withholding information, as opposed to having the belief or the understanding that perhaps if he was just honest, with people, then the right people would show up to do that with him, of which I was one, because I still talk to that fool today, and the person he was dating does not. But that was the person he chose in the official relationship. And I couldn't be in a relationship with him because he was already conforming to monogamy with somebody else, even though that's not what he was really doing for a long time. I mean, he was lying about that. So I did not realize he was lying to other people, which made me look like a trifling motherfucker in this situation, which on a small campus followed me around for 3 years because of this girl thinking that, like, I was an instigator when he was the instigator. And, all of our group of friends, when they were having a party and they invited her, I wasn't invited because of her, to the point that I was just like, you know what? Every, whatever kind of relationship I'm going to be in, it needs to be really explicit. Because I can't deal with the blowback of drama because somebody can't, show up as they are. So these kinds of things set me up to realize that monogamy was really a ridiculous trap. And it was a lie. Because the people who involve themselves in it naturally, well, they never have to have those kinds of conversations because they're naturally monogamous. And, you know, they're committed to one person. But the people who aren't that way are the ones who are fucking it up for everybody because they're just not being honest about the spectrum. So I just decided to not commit to any kind of relationship. So yeah, I feel like I'm a flexible asexual and that I'm basically a free agent. So, but I'm not, and in fact, okay, so until recently, choosing more than one partner, like, okay, I would just like one motherfucker alive to be transparent and honest and good. Like, I would be grateful for that. And I would not be greedy. And I would be like, great, let's grow together, whatever. It doesn't mean that you're gonna be my everything. I got a lot of friends, you being one. I have a lot of places I like to go in the world. I have a lot of shit I'm doing. I have a lot of family that I like and enjoy. So like, they're never gonna be the center of my universe, especially like spiritually and emotionally. But if you satisfy my needs are satisfied, like what the fuck else do I need to do?
It works. Okay, so I would say like my origin story around non-monogamy doesn't start with me. It starts with my marriage, where my spouse was non-monogamous, who from the beginning let me know that they were polyamorous. And so they wanted to be poly, but like do all the things behind my back, which to me still feels like cheating, right? Like, what's the point of being in an open relationship if you're not open at all? And so that's essentially what the relationship was. They would do things, you know, without me knowing. And sometimes I would find out. And so it always felt hurtful, like betrayal. So I couldn't even consider it as like something that I was interested in or that I could be non-monogamous. And towards the end of the relationship, we were sort of able to come to an agreement around them having some transparency around what they were doing. And they did start to tell me some things about other partners and stuff. And that was like, okay. Like, it didn't feel super hurtful. It felt so much better to me to just be let into what was going on and not to feel left out as the wife, you know? Then that relationship ended, and I kind of moved into a space of my own personal reflection, going deep into how I relate to people and to myself. And I started to realize that I had kind of lost some of my, I gave up some of my ability to choose when I was in that relationship. Like I had been chosen, I guess. They chose me, and I said, okay, and I accepted them choosing me with all of who they were. And then I would kind of just go with the flow with what they wanted, which is kind of a little bit in my nature, but I realized that I didn't want to be like that anymore. Like I didn't even know what I desired. So I started letting myself explore what made me feel alive, and I would discover every night that it was lots of things, like lots and lots of people, lots of things. Like also, I'm not into being possessed or being in a situation where I feel like I don't have choice, where I have to compromise a lot, because it's easy for me to just let the other person kind of win. For me, non-monogamy is not as much about having many partners. For me, it's about like having access to choose whatever I want. It's important for me to choose myself, choose my own needs, and just at least be connected to what I want to be doing, moment to moment. The flip side, it can be tiring to always have to choose for myself. I think a part of the reason why I felt somewhat comfortable in my marriage is because I didn't have to decide anything. Or I decided some things, but I didn't have to do a bunch of thinking and discernment. It was just we're doing what they want. So I think it can be tiring to be so connected to your desire. I'm the compass, as opposed to the relationship being the compass. Okay, so in my current dating situation, we've been dating for 6 months, and there have been moments in this relationship where we kind of fall into a regular, what looks like monogamy, or regular kind of see each other often, it's just routine, that happens. And recently we had a conversation where I was able to say, oh, I see that sometimes we get into this routine, and that's not what I want. I don't want to feel like we just talk every day, we hang out every other day because that's what we do. It's important for me to be able to choose, I want to see you. And if we do that, I think that I would show up better. So we did it. We took a week off from seeing each other. And I was so happy that I was able to be so honest about it. Because during that week off, I totally missed her and was really looking forward to seeing her. And was able to do so much with myself. I was also able to get a little gift for her for our date that was coming up on the weekend. And then when we actually had our date on the weekend, I was so much more present. Oh, she really liked it too, because it wasn't about rejection or anything. She was like, I cooked for myself 4 times this week. I went on 3 hikes. I am so excited to see you. And then when we saw each other, she's like, oh, I can feel that you're being so sweet to me. I really like this. Yeah. Well, I'm actually in the place where I kind of want to have a kid. I'm single now, and I did have a person I was married to, and it was really hard to give up that stability. I feel now I have the idea of community caregiving. And I don't mean to sound so woo-woo or community caregiving, but I actually did have experience with that, with my parents not being together when they had me. And my mom was very connected to her friends, her sisters, her cousins, and I had so many caregivers. And I feel, I'm a product of that. That it doesn't have to be that one type of family unit. There are so many ways we can do it, and it works. Faith.
We just broke up. Yeah. It was the 7th night of Hanukkah, I think. No, it's okay. Well, he didn't think we broke up, but we did. I ended the partnership. No, it's okay. It's just funny because when you reached out, we were in a really good place of monogamy. I know. Yeah, we were trying it out. We weren't just in a good place. I was anxious about how long it would last. There was a countdown, how long would he last? But really, if I'm honest with myself, how long would I last? And I was the one who kind of made the monogamy happen because I've struggled with the non-monogamy, our whole relationship, receiving it particularly, but also being fully transparent with him about me. I'm not a very faithful person, I guess. I mean, I wasn't. From my first relationship, when I was a teen, we were in love. He was my first and all these things, and I just didn't really feel conflicted, to cheat. I mean, I felt conflicted, just like after. But it just happened, and not under the best circumstances, like I was pressured by somebody older, or binge drinking, or my no wasn't respected. And since then, there's been a history, a pattern of deferring to the validation of men. So yeah, I can't really talk about non-monogamy without talking about patriarchy and trauma. Because the desire for freedom was always there. And I'm a pretty sexual person, I think. But then there was all the shame. So I didn't express it. Or if I did, it didn't go super well. So yeah, I guess it started with being in a more serious relationship that lasted for about 4 years. And then I cheated again. Blacked out drunk with 2 guy friends, and I lied, and I had to get tested before I let my partner touch me again. So yeah, that whole nightmare. But much later, I finally came to grips with, oh, I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. And I always had this feeling like I'm not done. And the fear of being, wait, do you know 3 sisters? Like Chekhov? Like Natasha? Okay, I had this whole thing playing out in front of me. Like the partner, he was the only son in a family with 3 powerful sisters, and we were all living together in a house in New Jersey. And I didn't want to live there, and maybe nobody did but him. It was like, Moscow, it was a whole thing. And there was this inevitability, you marry the brother, and you become this breeder. And these things just unfold without you really being conscious. And then it's too late, and then you're stuck. And then you're probably having an affair with the ghost principal Protopopov. So I was kind of curious about it, I guess, about being more out there and having more sexual experiences, and I kind of lost faith in monogamy, or in myself, not fucking it up again. And then my prayers were sort of answered. I had dated this guy briefly, 7 years earlier, and then he just asked me out for tea. And I got hot just at the question. But I kind of wanted to stick it to him because when we were dating, he had been dating a bunch of people at the time. And I remember being like, well, this doesn't feel good. I do not feel special. I felt disposable. But I said yes. It was Valentine's Day, which is how I knew he was single, I guess. And it was nice. And he had matured and I had matured. And we went on another date, and it just kind of unfolded so organically into the biggest love affair of my life. I actually wanted to love him. I had so much love to give, and he was grieving a breakup with his primary partner, and I didn't care. I loved loving him. And he said, he's ethically non-monogamous. And I was like, well, that's probably not gonna work for me. But also maybe? And it provided an opportunity to try it. And then we were in Joshua Tree, and we were climbing up this mountain. Oh, no, before that, then a pandemic happened. So I guess I was lucky, because we didn't have to explore dating other people really, because we were just partnered up and it was safe, and we were the most interesting thing happening for a year. And then we were in Joshua Tree, and we were climbing up this mountain, and I didn't really want to go. It was brambly, and it was one of the hottest days of the year, but he really wanted to see how high he could go. And we had this breakdown, a quarter of the way up, Rattlesnake Mountain. And we were just stuck there, dehydrating, talking in circles until it was clear to me that he wanted to be out there. I mean, like on the mountain, but I mean with like other women the whole time we'd been together. And he was also happy and so in love with me. And even if I couldn't totally understand it, I knew it was true for him. And I was like, oh, I didn't change him. He's not like monogamous now. Like, he really has a different way of being, and it's not about me not being enough. And yeah, I still judged him. I do. Like, you greedy, selfish motherfucker. Like, obviously you would have more if you could. And of course you can, because you have all this power and privilege, you dick. But it also made me happy to love him and be loved by him. And he went up more of that mountain, and I sat on that rock and looked at the view, and he would shout out my name and whistle when we couldn't see each other anymore, and then he came back down, and he almost passed out, and we cooled off, and we had a great time. And I got a sex and relationship coach, and that was very helpful. And we talked about my inner child and getting in touch with her and listening to her and protecting her, and that she was the center of my erotic life. And like, the biggest thing was like, I'm jealous of his freedom and angry. And I've got to practice this. And when I did, and I kept the focus on me, it started to make sense. And as the world opened up and vaccinations and all that, we began dating a little. And when I got to try it for the first time with this guy that I met, and he was normal and cool and such a good listener and respectful of me and my relationship, like he supported our Black love and like what we were building. And then we eventually had sex, and I chose it. And it was simple and undramatic. And there were clear expectations and bodies and connections, and then like, thank you. Goodbye. And it didn't take away from my love and partnership. I appreciated it more. I appreciated all of it. And for like one sliver of a moment, it was freedom. Like I saw the whole world open up, just like whoosh. But when I told my partner, he was devastated, like gutted. And I was like, oh God, this is bullshit. But he felt I didn't communicate clearly to him what was happening. Even though I said I was open to sex, it's like he didn't believe me. And there was a lot of me not being direct. Like, I have issues with making things sound good instead of just like saying the whole truth. And then there was shame, and he was going through it bad, and neither of us expected it because I'd been the one devastated this whole time. And he had stopped himself every time he got close to sex because he was worried about our relationship ending, and he didn't want that. And he was angry at himself and me, I guess. And I never really considered that he was new at it too. Like, he didn't have a ton of experience either, and he said he was scared. Before this happened, he said he was scared. And I don't know if I really heard him on that, or I didn't really believe him. So we kind of went back and forth, like my hurt, his hurt, my hurt, his hurt. And now we're broken up, mostly. And I feel more free, but also it fucking sucks. Like I feel like I failed, and I'm tired, and I'm sad. I don't know what to do. It sucks. It really sucks.
The time bomb. So, I guess this story starts in Jerusalem. in my last year in rabbinical school. And that's a time and a place where you can sort of feel more free. You can kind of slip out and just have an adventure. Also, there's just a magical, magical quality about Jerusalem. I really just love it there. But my now husband, Adam, and I were at a point in our relationship where we were talking about getting engaged. We said that we would after my Israel year. And I guess the other thing is that he and I both identify as bisexual. We both had relationships with people of both genders, but I was younger than him, and I felt like I hadn't had all the experiences that I kind of wanted for myself in my singlehood. So I felt this like ticking time bomb. You know, like once you get married, that's it. We're both rabbis. Yeah. Yeah, so we can't, we're seldom going to be in a position where polyamory could really ever be explored. But we're also deeply committed to each other and to having a rabbinic household. But I was really just going down the list of things I wanted to do, and there felt like there was just this time limit. So I got it in my head that I would try to have like one more experience, with a woman or a couple or something while I was in Israel before I went back and got engaged. And I asked him, and he was supportive. And so I downloaded OkCupid or something, and I kind of started seeing just who was out there. And I ended up communicating with this woman named Dora, who seemed to be just a couple years younger than me. I'm 26, and I was like 23 at the time. This was like 4 years ago. I was very, very young. And eventually, after a few messages, she told me that she had a boyfriend and they were actually hoping to find a unicorn, a girl to join them. And that's been one of my fantasies for a long time. And I said, okay, but here are my parameters. I don't want to have sex with him. I'm in a relationship myself. And also in the back of my head, there were some red flags going up. Like, first of all, it's crazy to be negotiating your first group sexual experience over chat in English and Hebrew. Like I know Hebrew, but like not like that, like go to the supermarket, but like, I don't know, they don't teach you how to negotiate intimate relationships in Hebrew class. Like usually I'm just like reading Torah. And also then there was like some pushback from him, like, oh, I want to be able to do this or that, and I don't want to feel restricted. Oh, would you come across the country and meet us in this place? And finally, actually, I ended up having phone sex with them. And at this time, one thing to know is that my husband, my now husband, my boyfriend at the time said, I don't really want to know what these conversations are. I want you to just do what you feel you need to do. This is your thing. And even though there were red flags, I felt the pressure again of like, this is my last chance. And so they drove over from the Tel Aviv side of Israel, and we went to the hostel that I had kind of vetted so it was clean and safe. And I was looking forward to it. But when we got there, the price of the room came up, and he said, I think we should find a place that's less expensive, we can't afford it. And you know what? I look back, and I wish I had said, it's here or nowhere. But, so what ended up happening for the next, like, hour and a half was, like, just driving around Jerusalem, like Ben Yehuda Street and like Mea Shearim, which was like super weird because it's where all the ultra-Orthodox people live, and I'm in a car with this couple I want to have sex with. And so at that point, they started saying, oh, maybe we should go back to your apartment. And I was really hesitant about that. And I kind of see now that they were like trying to wear me down so they wouldn't have to spend money. So finally I was like, let's just get something to eat. There's a pizza place near my apartment. And I was pretty much like stalling. I was pretty confused at this point. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, you're getting married, you're getting engaged, you'll never be able to do this. So while we were eating pizza, this really weird thing happened. And it seems insignificant, but basically, the guy goes into a grocery store that's right next to the pizza place and buys 2 Crembo candies. It's like a marshmallow covered in chocolate. It's a candy that kids eat, so I found that incredibly insulting and infantilizing. And he didn't even offer it to us. He was just like, here, eat it. And I should have said no, but I still ate it. And I feel like that's like representative of the whole experience. After that, they came back to my apartment, and my roommates were home, but they were asleep. It was probably like 11 o'clock at this point. And I think by then I was just like, whatever, let's just do it, get it over with, which is not how an experience like that should be. Like, everyone should be enthusiastic and, on the same page. But so, we all go into my room, and the girl turns to me and says, do you want to take a shower? Like, I would really feel more comfortable if you cleaned off. And I was like, sure, like, okay. And I was kind of relieved to just have a second to breathe, and at that moment, while I was in the bathroom, Adam called me. And he had like no idea this was going on. And he said, Jenny, I've been thinking about, your experience you're seeking. I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable. I don't like the idea of you meeting random people on the internet, and it makes me feel like you're not serious, Like, I feel like you're some girl I'm dating rather than the girl I'm gonna marry. I'm like literally there on the other side of the wall, and he's saying this, and I just started crying. And it was like, at the Akedah Yitzhak, like the binding of Isaac, when the angels say, like, Avraham, Avraham, and like stop him from making this horrible decision. I mean, like, sacrificing your son is a lot worse than having a threesome, but I really feel like my husband saved me. And there was like this element of like divine timing, like swooping in and being like, yes, don't do it. And what he said was really lovely. He said, Jenny, you know what? Like, if this is really something you want to do, let's do it together. It'll be hard because we're rabbis, but life is long, and maybe we'll travel, or we can hire a sex worker, something like that, and we'll just figure it out. But I want to be there for you. I want it to be safe and good, not just with some random person from Israel by yourself. And so in that way, he kind of diffused the ticking time bomb, And I snapped out of it. Like, okay, I'm just gonna tell these people to go home, and it's not gonna work. And they were very understanding, actually, the girl especially, and they left. And I immediately called my friend from college, who actually is polyamorous and queer, and he listened, and I was like, I just had to get this off my chest, this crazy story, which I can never tell. so yeah, that's the story.
Born to be. So then I discovered how wonderful threesomes are. Because I hate like long sex sessions. Like I kind of just want to be in and out usually, you know? I mean, like there's a time and a place, and maybe sometimes, I don't know, maybe if I'm high, let's prolong this. But usually I'm like, I'm tired, stop. But threesomes are great because then you can tap out and they're still doing their thing. And then when you're ready, then like you can come back in. So that's why threesomes are my favorite. Okay, so going back. So there was this one person at work that I had a crush on that like kept coming up. And I think Andrew, former fiance, started to be like, well, what is it about this guy? And like, what's happening here? But at the same time, that guy at work was totally sad and married, and I think his wife was pregnant, so like, I wasn't gonna do anything with that dude. But then we just started talking about, well, what if he were available? What would that mean? Would I want to pursue him? And I was kind of like, well, I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess, if I wasn't with you, but like I am with you, so that's not going to happen. At the time, I think I was already aware of non-monogamy. I was a feminist blogger, so if nothing else for that reason. Because unconventional anything was like my jam, and I would research it to death. So I'm pretty sure that by then I'd already read Opening Up by Tristan, whatever her last name is, Tommy? No, something like that. And maybe I already owned The Ethical Slut, but I definitely hadn't read it yet. So whatever, like I knew this was a thing that people did, but I didn't know anyone who did that. And also, I have this thing where I'm not a jealous person. Like I have jealousy, but it shows up different for me, I guess. This is the feedback I've received. And I don't know, I also don't feel threatened by another person like being there. Like if you want to leave me for another person, well then you should do that then. You shouldn't be with me if you want to be with this other person. What are we doing here? I'm not here to convince anybody to be with me. That's not what I'm here on this earth for. So I think because of that, and because he had kind of worked through some of his jealousy stuff, we decided, well, let's just give this a try. So like, it was fine for us to date whoever, it was fine for us to fuck whoever, we could do it together or separate. Because part of our sexual relationship was already talking about people we were into, like we could freely talk about anybody at any point for any reason. I definitely started out this way. I'm not sure if he started out this way or if he just became this way, but like both of us would get really turned on at the thought of the other person being with anybody. So like that became part of our sex life, to just be like, well, what did you do with that person? Or like, you did this, but what did you really want to do? So yeah. And then he dated two of my friends. Yeah. One of them I'm still friends with. And we had a threesome with her. And we were like, this is great. You should date her all the time. Because my part of my appeal, okay, so things to know about me. Number one, I hate doing things I don't want to do. Even if it's a person I love. I'm just not interested. I don't want to watch a stupid comedy with you. I don't want to go to the mall with you. I don't want to like, I don't know, whatever, go to the beach with you. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'll do that if I have to, but I really don't want to feel like I have to, right? So like, if you want to go do that with somebody else, just live your best life and then you can come back and talk about it after. Like, you tell me about how you had a great time at the mall. Wow. Wow. So that was like very appealing to me. I was like, this is a fucking win. Like, they went to the mall and I just like hung out at home by myself that day. So from the beginning, I was like, this is what I was born to be non-monogamous. And then from there, it was just like really nice. I love the idea that you can grow with a person without having to like grow at the same pace or in the same way at the same rate, because that's unrealistic. It puts a lot of pressure on relationships. Eventually we broke up. It had nothing to do with us being in an open relationship, although everybody around us assumed that it was. And I was like, this is, okay, y'all are really projecting. So we broke up, whatever. Eventually, I was in a relationship that was not open. Yeah, we were together for 5 years. It was mostly fine, but it was also like, cool. I definitely like non-monogamy. That's the thing I want. Like, I can make this work, but it's not the fullest expression of who I am. And now I'm just single, so you know, I have nothing. I think like if I'm designing like my perfect world and like my perfect sense of family and community, then it looks like a place where non-monogamy fits very easily, because it's like we all know each other. We all love each other, we're all connected to each other. Even if we don't know each other intimately or like particularly well, we're like still aware of what everyone's up to. And so like in that sense, if we're all one community, we're all family, and then like, yeah, why wouldn't I be able to like see this person or have sex with this person? Why wouldn't you be able to explore things with these people and like whatever? So in my dream world, like whoever I'm with would know the other people that I'm with, and maybe they would be into each other, maybe they wouldn't. I don't really care about that. But like, that's what I would want it to look like if I could design it.
Tessa. Oh, sorry, I'm just finishing. Just finishing my workout. Okay. Here we go. No. I don't mind. I don't mind being anonymous because I actually would like the attention to my podcast. Yeah. Well, I'm going to be 60 this year. So, so it definitely was not part of my generational exposure. And one of my dear friends was exposed to it at a nude beach in Florida as a swinger. And I was just more interested in sensuality and sexuality. I didn't know. I didn't know I even had an interest in women. So even though I always had a sensual relationship with my friends as a younger person, so when we went to a dancing club with her, it was a very open space with my husband. It just kind of took me by storm. Like, oh my goodness, sensuality and soul live in me in a way that doesn't have to be bottled, and it doesn't have to just be the way my husband and I do it. The same way. Well, we revived. Almost like we were teenagers again. The next day, we were driving to a conference, and we were having sex on the side of the road. Because we just were like, wow, we can have our sexuality, and it's not shameful. I mean, not that I would ever shame. I started having sex when I was 15 and a half, and I always loved it. And I didn't have a lot of shame around it. Anyway, I I find that it's really hard in my generation for people to even talk about sex. There's still a lot of shame around it. People don't want to deal with it. I was always taught, once you meet somebody, that's it. And now, even though my husband and I, we evolve, we've been able to bring things back to us. So, yeah, our logo is the infinity circle, yeah. Yeah, because we believe, at this age, being married with 31 years and ethically non-monogamous for half of that we've been like going out and bringing it back in. Going out and bringing it back in. And where do you offer each other space? Space to create that. Yeah, we had some clashes, yeah. But he always came from compersion, from generosity. We didn't even know what that word was, right? But my husband was able to always say, if you're happy, eventually I'll be happy. Even if I feel jealousy and not being able to meet some of your needs. Yeah. He asks me sometimes and I tell him, and I ask him sometimes. He's a little more BDSM right now. Yeah, so he has girlfriends that are a little more BDSM oriented, and I like to hear what makes him happy. Just because I can't fulfill it doesn't mean I'm not excited for him. We're so lucky. We're lucky to find people one at a time that are open-minded in our age range. And I only recently got online on Field for the first time ever to start dating a little bit, because my boyfriend, my lover, I call him my lover, he was really not available, and my husband was dating a lot, so he was kind of busier at night. I like to go out. So I started dating recently. Yeah, first time online. Oh, I'm having the best time. I've only had 3 dates. They've all been so beautiful. Oh, so beautiful, so connected. One of them, I had this whole tantra session by the second date with him. Yeah, because he was just fully present with me. Embodiment. Yeah. Embodiment for me, it comes from mindfulness practice. Yeah, 10 years ago, I went to a silent retreat at Isabella Friedman, the Jewish Retreat Center, and I just got more curious about my inner landscape. And then I did a master's in consciousness and mindfulness, and my thesis on sexuality and how they kind of intersect. Embodiment. Embodiment is really movement. Breath. Sound. Moving breath and voice, so. Yeah. So, over the last number of years with my Jewish education piece, I was creating some Jewish meditation and chants in our bodies for all ages. And now, right now, I'm trying to figure out the intersection of that vocalization, which is very embodied for sexuality as well, and how I can help that overlap with our sexuality. In a Jewish perspective, in the sphere, so we have these Kabbalistic terms also which relate to the chakras. And so there's a whole teaching, I'm just learning for myself to connect. I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert in this area. In traditional yoga, they have colors, right? So they have colors. Lower chakras, orange and red. In the middle chakras, blue-green, up to the throat. And upper chakras are kind of purple and white. This. The idea of oneness. Bringing oneness into the present. Yeah. I'm thinking about how to open our vulva. Yeah. Open our sexuality. through breathing into the lower chakra, our root, our foundation, which is this motherhood, where the feminine divine comes from, while imagining the colors, the fire of the red and the orange, and creating that awareness to sound and to Hebrew words. I use the Shema. So the shin, I use a mudra of the shin. Yeah, open shin. And I've been saying 3 different mantras with the Shema, the Moda, just the word Moda, and Ahava, which means love. Yeah. Yes, the ancestral wound. Those mother wounds. And in Judaism, the mother is so essential. I mean, really, in life. In life. You know, the mother is so essential. There's just so much to know, even within our own bodies, and certainly in a sacred sexual way. So yeah, that's been my new exploration that you just caught me in because I was about to work with a woman in Tel Aviv this week, with a bunch of women actually. We got canceled because of the new regulations in Israel. Yes, Tessa at theopennesters.com, Open Nesters Podcast. Nope. I'm just, what does a beautiful, curious young woman like you, what can I help you with?